Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Jeep 411. Today we're going to be talking about recovery gear and winching. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about are shackles, both soft shackles and the traditional hard shackle. So Bill, why don't you explain what you're holding?
Well, shackle, or sometimes people call it a D-ring. This is just really the attachment of any winch line or rope or strap or whatever you need to attach to your vehicle so someone else can pull you out. The hard version is what we've all used. It usually attaches to a bumper or some center pull point on your bumper, sometimes the trailer hitch in the rear. What Don has are the soft shackles, and those are really pretty slick. Yeah. These you don't want to drop on your foot.
And these you can do anything with. Now, there's a misconception that that's stronger than these. Not really true. These can wear where this probably isn't going to, but these are way more convenient to use. This one, show them how you tighten it down and back off a quarter turn. Otherwise, the load on that under winching, when you're done, if you tighten it all the way and don't back off that pin a little bit, makes it very difficult to unscrew that pin. These guys, you don't have the same problem. Bill, if you hold that one. There's a lot of different brands on the market. They all pretty much work the same way. So the way these work, you pull open this loop after you put it through whatever you're attaching it to, which could be on a bumper or the end of a winch line, and we'll show you when we do a setup, we'll show you how that works. You put the knot through, pull this tight, and it's kind of like the Chinese finger torture. You're never going to pull this apart, short of a complete failure. But if this fails, unlike a metal shackle, it's just going to fall to the ground. It's much less dangerous than a metal shackle. And these are great for using a closed loop winching system. One of the things about these shackles you need to know, this is a really good one, and you can tell the difference. And this is a 3/4 inch shackle. This is a common size used on Jeeps for winching and other recovery exercises. But this one has raised serial numbers and markings on it. That's a really good indication that this is a domestic high quality shackle. The ones that have them stamped in are typically not as high quality. They're still strong, but not nearly as strong. These far exceed their braking strength. So if you're going to use a hard shackle, make sure it's one with the raised numbers on it. But we really recommend using soft shackles because they're easier, safer, and cool.
One disadvantage of the hard shackle is if you have it on your bumper, you usually tightened it so that somebody walking through the parking lot when you're parked at the mall doesn't come and steal it. But when you need it, everyone's scrambling for a wrench. These you can do with your fingers. It's pretty simple.
Yep. Huge advantage.
Huge advantage.
And when you drop these on your toe, well, I scream if I drop one of those on my toe. I don't know about others.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
No, this does nothing. So, not a big deal. Okay, let's move on to what we're going to use next. How about a snatch block?
Okay. Snatch block is pretty much just a pulley system to send the winch rope through. And the reason you would do that is it essentially doubles the winching capacity of your winch. It's just common physics. Was in your early geometry class.
I missed that day.
Yeah, I slept through it. You just unfold it like this, take the winch line through it, put it back together, and you'll put either probably a D-ring or a soft shackle through this, and then connect your winch line. You'll use this typically around a tree.
And we'll get to tree savers in a minute.
With a tree saver strap. So that you can use it for either doubling the force or pulling in a different direction. You may have a Jeep over there and you're trying to get this one over here, but you're trying to move it this way, not towards the Jeep. So you can use it to come at a different angle.
And obviously you need an attachment point away from either of the two vehicles that are being winched, or the object that you're winching. So this has to be attached to a tree or a third vehicle to make it work. The same with this guy. This is the modern version of a snatch block. This is basically a high quality machined aluminum pulley. Works exactly the same way. You loop a winch line around it, and then instead of using a shackle like that, you use a soft shackle the same way you use any soft shackle, and it's not going to come apart on you. And
that's pretty slick. And
this is about half of the weight of this.
Of that.
Maybe even, well, I think it's even lighter than half the weight.
Yeah.
Maybe a third of the weight. And much easier to fabricate or to set up, because you don't have to play with opening and closing this, so you can get the rope in and out, the winch line.
Yeah, and I've seen people struggle with this, trying to keep it straight, trying to keep the winch line in there and gather up the slack. Make sure your fingers are out of the way, but make sure that it's fed through that pulley correctly.
That would be me.
This seems like this would be a lot easier to deal with.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And we haven't even used this yet, so maybe we'll
and this one's good for a mere 40,465 pounds. So I would imagine this is the weak link.
That one, you always want the softest part to be the weak link, whether it's winch line or a soft shackle.
And again, if this lets loose versus that letting loose, this has a lot less energy in it. So it's...
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to hurt less and do less damage.
Okay, Bill, why don't you go ahead and start with that one you got around a tree there.
Yeah. And obviously the idea for a tree saver is saving the tree. There are cables that you can wrap around the tree. You could run your winch line around the tree. Probably wouldn't be good. Please
don't do that.
Please don't do that. Yeah, you're going to saw cut through the tree. This saves the tree, and it also gives you a real good attachment point for the snatch block or just your winch. Because if you just, let's say you're not even using it as a snatch block or a pulley point, and you just wrap your winch line around the tree, man, it's hard on the rope, and it's harder on the tree, and we really don't want to do that. So
this is a pretty standard tree saver strap. Here's one that's about the same length, but it's way wider. Why would you want a wider one, you ask? Well, there's a good reason for that. One is it's stronger, and more importantly, it spreads the load out on the tree a lot wider area, so it's going to do less damage to the tree than a narrow one will.
Right.
But it's possible to have a tree that this won't wrap around, so maybe you can use two, or ARB's solution is to have a tree saver strap that's a nice heavy duty strap that's about 50% longer than a standard one. So this will get around a little bit bigger tree trunk. And we'll show you a couple different winching techniques that will determine how high up on a tree you want to put this, but typically for most winching operations, you want to put the tree saver as close to the ground as is reasonable, because that's the strongest part of the tree. The farther up you go, the more leverage there is on the tree and the more chance you have of damaging the tree itself.
But you may need to do that to pull up instead of down.
Exactly, and that's something we'll demonstrate, because if you're pulling down, you're loading the tires. If you're pulling up, you're unloading the tires. When you pull down, you're compressing the springs, and it can make the pull a lot more difficult than if you're getting a little lift, especially if you're stuck in sand, mud, or deep snow.
These are called tree savers, but we've actually used these to wrap around boulders to get us through areas. So you can wrap it around the boulder. What's that? Or
even to move them.
If you need to relocate something, if you're in the Caltrans mode and doing
when we do our
work.
adopt a trail work, sometimes we're moving boulders.
That's true. We're
to
moving
make something
boulders.
more difficult, not easier.
Right. So it's just a regular nylon webbing strap. I'm not sure what the strength is on this one. It's a decent quality. This is just used for, you'll hook from one Jeep to the next, and it might take just a little bit of a nudge to get somebody up and over an obstacle, or they've turtled on a rock or a tree stump or something, or stuck in a ruck, and all they need is just a little bit of help to get them through. So you would pull it.
It can also be used as a tow strap.
It can be used as a tow strap,
So
and it essentially is.
When you break a transmission or a drive shaft or blow up your engine and need a tow, this is how to do it. And we'll do another video that shows you the techniques for towing, because there are some very specific things about towing that you need to know. They may not be so intuitive. So we'll get to that in another episode.
Right. So with this one, obviously you want to bring it taut before you really start to give any throttle to the towing vehicle. You don't want to snap this one because it may snap or it may pull parts off depending on what you have it hooked to.
Now the best example of that I've seen is somebody used a tow strap like that to pull a vehicle stuck in deep wet sand. And I think it was down in Johnson Valley after a rain. So it's a big diesel pickup truck who's got a tow strap like this wrapped around a roll cage on a CJ at the top. The CJ is going this way, the truck is pulling this way. It didn't remove the Jeep, but it did yank the roll cage off the Jeep. Spectacular video. Fortunately, nobody was inside, or they would have probably been decapitated or worse. So yeah, you don't want to pull sideways. You want to pull in a straight line when you can, especially towing with tow straps. And you want to keep them as low as you can get them.
Yeah, and as gently as possible.
Yeah.
When you can.
You don't want to be pulling bumpers and stuff off, which has happened.
Yeah.
This is a Kinetic recovery strap, also known as a yanker strap. As the name implies, you use this to yank a vehicle that's stuck out of the stuck situation. So it works the same way as a tow strap. And another thing about tow straps, you'll notice that these have nice fabric stitched ends. You do not want a tow strap with a steel hook on it because they're made out of cast metal and they will break.
Yeah.
So you want definitely the stitched loop on a tow strap. These are typically 20, 25 feet long, one vehicle to the next. And unlike the tow strap, you want to have about 50% of that distance being slack. And you're going to get a running start, and we'll be doing another video on this. You want to get a running start. This one stretches. This has about 25% stretch under full load, which means you're going to get 4 or 5 inches of stretch. And that's why it's called kinetic, because that stretching, it starts to stretch before it moves the other vehicle. When that stretching gets to its limit, based on how hard the pull is, that helps pop the vehicle out of deep snow or mud or sand. You don't really need that when a vehicle's high-centered. You can usually pull those off with a tow strap,
right,
or gently with one of these. These are not tow straps. These should not be used for towing, although if that was the only thing you had, you could do it. You just have to be way more careful because it's going to stretch and create an accordion effect between the vehicles and probably give one or the other drivers a sore neck by the end of the day, or the tow. So these are very handy. There's all kinds of brands of these now. This is a pretty old one. They don't get used that often, but boy, when you need one, it's great to have them.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you'll subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends, and we'll see you next time.